Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents A Still Quiet Place for Athletes, Mindfulness Skills for Achieving Peak Performance and Finding Flow in Sports and Life, by Amy Saltzman, M.D. Forward by Jim Thompson. Narrated by Coleen Marlo. Publisher's note: in this audio edition, you will hear references to worksheets, images, and activities present in the print and ebook formats of the book. Forward. Mindfulness and sports are a winning combination, one we have been moving towards since Tim Gallwey wrote The Inner Game of Tennis in 1974. Phil Jackson pioneered mindfulness in professional sports, and we now see some of the highest performers at all levels embracing mindfulness practice. Under Steve Kerr's leadership, the Golden State Warriors made mindfulness one of the team's key values, along with joy, compassion, and competition. And both 2016 World Series teams benefited from the wisdom of sports psychologists Ken Ravizza for the Cubs and Charlie Marr for the Indians, who helped players keep their minds in the moment. And this is just to name a few. Bringing mindfulness to all athletes is a logical next step, so I'm excited about Amy Saltzman's A Still Quiet Place for Athletes. Having practiced mindfulness myself for many years, I was delighted to be asked by Amy to write this forward. I was given a month to complete it, so I predictably put it at the back of my to-do list and forgot about it, until the day it was due. At the time, I was feeling overwhelmed with what seemed like an infinite list of challenges in my work with Positive Coaching Alliance, PCA, the recent passing of my father-in-law, Ralph, whom I loved deeply, and the daily issues of being a husband, father, and grandfather. I reminded myself that I had faced challenges that felt overwhelming before, and that my mindfulness practice usually helped me find a way to get them done. But I still remained anxious about upcoming challenges, and regretful about things I had not done well in the past. I felt stuck in what Amy describes as my feelings having me, rather than me learning to have my feelings. At this point, part of me deeply regretted having agreed to write this forward in the first place, but nonetheless, I dove into her manuscript in search of motivation. Almost immediately I found the phrase, "Noticing what you are experiencing with kindness and curiosity is mindfulness." At a mindfulness retreat years ago, I heard a speaker say something similar, that gentleness with yourself is the gateway to courage. While I had embraced that notion at the time, Amy helped me realize that I was now very far away from the kindness toward myself that I encourage athletes to adopt for themselves daily. As my experience attests, this book offers a place of kindness and curiosity where athletes can simply be in the moment with their thoughts and feelings. It shows that you can choose how you want to respond to any given situation, from writing a foreword to your colleague's book to taking a potentially game-winning shot, rather than react automatically out of anxiety or fear. When I started the PCA nearly 20 years ago, my goal was to help athletes find the pure joy in playing sports that seems all too rare today. And I am grateful to Amy's book for helping me rediscover this same sense of joy when it comes to my own work with mindful athletes. I am reminded of Fred Rogers, who once said, "Life is deep and simple, and what our society gives us is shallow and complicated." This deep simplicity of life is accentuated in sports, which has been called life with the volume turned up. A Still Quiet Place for Athletes can help athletes and coaches find the deep and simple heart of sports. It is filled with insights, exercises, tools, and resources that can help athletes of all ages bring their full self to their sport and to their lives. A Still Quiet Place for Athletes is an important and valuable resource for athletes, coaches, and parents. Really, everyone can benefit from its wisdom. Thank you, Amy Saltzman, for providing us with this gift. Jim Thompson is founder and CEO of Positive Coaching Alliance, positivecoach.org, a national nonprofit with the goal to use sports to develop better athletes, better people, and a longtime practitioner of mindfulness meditation. Introduction. Standing at the chalk box, she dips her hands in the cool, smooth fluff, forms it into cakes, and lets them sift through her construction worker's calloused hands. The metal and wood structure of the uneven bars taunts her with images of ghost gymnasts accomplishing her goals. The bars giggle as she mounts, clanking and rattling with her motion. She pushes her body away from the upper bar and directs it in a pendulum's arc toward the lower bar. At the instant of contact, her oyster body snaps shut, its treasure inside. With her nose to her knees and the bar embedded in her hinged hips, she circles and snaps open again, stretching to crucify herself on the upper bar. Thud! Her landing mocks her efforts. Again and again she mounts. Each time her pendulum body swings and falls in a dull tick-tock monotony. The wine-colored bruises on her hips ache and throb, yet she chalks her blistered hands again. Echoes in her mind of an old coach's wise words about plateaus soothe her frustrations. Once more she swings and falls. Perhaps tomorrow the chalk cloud she claps from her hands will have a silver lining. The passage was written in 1981 when I was a junior in high school, long before mindfulness came into my life. Yet unbeknownst to me, gymnastics was my first mindfulness practice. The previous passage depicts an athlete's, my, moment-to-moment awareness of physical sensations, thoughts, and feelings, and my joyful, determined spirit. In the decades since, I have discovered that there is one essential element for achieving peak performance: finding or being found by your true coach. It is my experience that this coach will have tremendous expertise in training your body, your mind, and your spirit equally. To those of you who feel you have not yet found that person, don't give up. Never give up. The very purpose of this book is to train you in the primary distinctions for finding flow. Body. Like most young athletes, I began my journey at the local rinky-dink gymnastics facility just a few miles from home. A huge shout-out to rinky-dink sports facilities where so many of us get our start. By chance, my mother had a dear friend, Coleen, who, by chance, was the head gymnastics coach at the University of Denver. Coleen in turn pointed me to Max, the director of the youth program, who, by chance, was my first true coach. I have been extraordinarily lucky and privileged to have found two true coaches in one lifetime. Like most great coaches, Max progressively developed my physical skills. Exceptionally, he also shared his deep love of anatomy and physiology with every gymnast in his program, whether they were interested or not. He required all beginners to be able to point to and name the major bones, intermediates to be able to point to and name the major muscles, and advanced gymnasts to know the names and functions of all of the physiological systems. These remarkable requirements awakened in me a deep respect for and love of the human body and its amazing capacities. Most importantly, Max's heartfelt enthusiasm ensured that in the midst of the daily blunders, falls, stumbles, popped blisters, taping, and all that training and competing entails, there was great joy and flow. Even with Max's comprehensive strength and conditioning regimen, I experienced repeated shoulder dislocations and ultimately chose to have reconstructive surgery on my right shoulder at age 14 and my left shoulder at age 15 in order to continue to compete. This is sport. Of the many sacrifices and frustrations a competitive athlete accepts, nothing compared to the disappointment of Max relocating to start his own program and family. Despite his departure, I continued to compete through high school. I arrived at college as an unknown, unrecruited, non-scholarship athlete. I showed up, tried out, and earned a spot as a walk-in on the Stanford varsity team. The beginning of my junior year brought a series of injuries, and I chose to stop competing in gymnastics. I briefly became a triathlete and subsequently a competitive cyclist. By chance, one rainy afternoon outside the Stanford post office, where the cycling team usually gathered, I met the man who had become my husband. A much more experienced competitive cyclist, he had wisely ridden earlier in the day and had just come by to see who was going out to ride in the rain. Only me. To this day, he continues to compete at the highest levels of the sport. Spirit. In the summer of 1989, recently married and still cycling, I was eager to start my second year of medical school. By chance, a cycling friend invited me to attend a retreat with her longtime transformational sports coach, Ms. Georgina Lindsay. From here on out, Ms. Lindsay will be referred to as Coach G. Thus began the miraculous, all-encompassing, awe-inspiring, soul-based journey that led me to unequivocally experience the synergy of body, mind, and spirit, true flow. Coach G was and continues to be an actual pioneer in the transformational coaching field. She had established her own highly regarded athletics coaching company, Quantum Leap, in Venice, California. In 1986, Transformational Technologies, one of the top corporate coaching franchises, then recruited her to co-create a division to bring transformation to sports and athletics. At 26, she was by far the youngest and only female founding partner of Sports Vision. The other founding partners were Roland Todd, previously the head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers, and William Kassoff, previously the head of the U.S. Tennis Association. Sports Vision was the first national company to bring transformational technologies to athletes. While at Sports Vision, Coach G trained athletes in the Women's Sports Foundation, in the LPGA, on the Phoenix Suns, and on a majority of the teams at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, among others. At the time, Sports Vision's techniques were so profoundly innovative and transformational that other superstars in this emerging field, such as Tim Gallwey, author of The Inner Game of Tennis, sought out the expertise of the company's founders and requested to play and periodically guest coach with them. In 1989, after the devastating, unfortunate death of the founding partner of the corporate franchise, the founders of Sports Vision went their separate ways. Coach G resumed private coaching and began offering a series of highly regarded workshops for extremely accomplished female athletes. Participants included Susie Chaffee, downhill skiing Olympian in 1968 and freestyle world champion in 1971, 1972, and 1973, and Nancy Hogshead, three-time Olympic gold medalist in swimming in 1984. During my first day-long retreat, I sat in a circle with 10 other athletes. I don't remember the exercises, the handouts, or the room. I do know that Coach G diagnosed, with masterful precision, each person's act, the unconscious patterns that prevented her from achieving her truest dreams. My ego or personality didn't hear my diagnosis, poor me, as good news. However, my spirit was enlivened and elated by the truth. Over the past 3 decades, Coach G has ardently refined and expanded her offerings and served the gamut of humanity. She supports clients as they deconstruct their normal modes of thinking about themselves, their unconscious limitations, and their unrealized possibilities. Her work is exciting, exacting, and provocative. She is the first to acknowledge that her intensity is definitely not for everyone, and those who commit to the rigors of her work repeatedly experience astonishing, exhilarating breakthroughs. Bottom line, Coach G is flow. Oddly enough, or perhaps not, she is also one of the most humble, private individuals I know. She has never had a web page or business cards, and her phone number is unlisted. Go figure. For more than 30 years, the many people who have found their way to her have done so by word of mouth. Given her tragic and traumatic childhood, who she is all the more astounding. Soon those fascinated by her will be able to read her courageous, against-all-odds tale in her forthcoming creative nonfiction memoir, Naked Grace. Mind. By chance, in the winter of 1990, I had 2 cycling accidents in short succession. Georgina's coaching enabled me to discover that truly nothing is by chance, and that accidents are always opportunities in disguise. While rehabilitating my knee, I was able to attend to some neglected aspects of my life, including finally joining the American Holistic Medical Association, AHMA. Although I felt pulled to participate in this new world of true healthcare, I had missed every deadline for the AHMA's annual conference, registration, scholarships, and housing. Utilizing Coach G's distinction of living from vision versus circumstances, I looked beyond the circumstances and sent in my application. By chance, another woman canceled at the last minute, and I received her registration, scholarship, and housing. After returning from the conference and receiving coaching, I boldly sent a letter to the AHMA Board of Trustees, suggesting creative ways the organization could nurture the natural holism in medical students and residents. By chance, 4 months after that conference, I was asked to join the board of AHMA, and I served as trustee for 10 years. In early 1993, the airing of Bill Moyer's PBS special, Healing and the Mind, was a pivotal event for the holistic medicine community, and for me personally. After seeing this segment on the Stress Reduction Clinic, now called the Center for Mindfulness in Medicine, Healthcare, and Society, at the University of Massachusetts, I felt an undeniable urge to practice and share mindfulness. I read the book Full Catastrophe Living, written by the clinic's director, John Kabat-Zinn, and immediately began a daily mindfulness practice. Despite having minimal experience with formal practice, an increasingly familiar mixture of arrogance, faith, persistence, and strong intuition compelled me to contact Dr. Kabat-Zinn at the Stress Reduction Clinic repeatedly. Using another of Coach G's distinctions, outrageous request, I respectfully asked to participate in comprehensive training in mindfulness-based stress reduction. By chance, my medical residency director approved my request to devote a month to studying mindfulness. Surprisingly, she also gave me academic credit for attending the program and found funding to pay my tuition. In 1993, I spent the glorious, colorful month of October in Western Massachusetts immersed in the practice and study of mindfulness. When I returned, I designed a large-scale clinical trial to evaluate the benefits of mindfulness for medical patients suffering from chronic pain and illness. Then, after my children were born, I began sharing mindfulness with parents. Over time, I simplified and distilled the practices so I could share them with young children and adolescents. Now it is my great joy to share them with you. Body, Mind, and Spirit. In 1990, upon entering my third year of medical school, I transitioned from being a competitive athlete to being a devoted recreational athlete, running, cycling, and developing a yoga practice. And in 2003, at the age of 40, I began mindfully learning how to snowboard. For the past 29 years, it has been my great fortune to train with Coach G on a weekly basis. In a culture where people go from one self-help workshop to another searching for quick fixes, an ongoing intimate relationship with a true master, one who has attained mastery, is absolutely priceless. Professionally, her coaching guided me through the transition from competitive athletics, the extremely rigorous and deeply gratifying moments of medical school and residency, and the perils and delights of bringing holism to conventional medicine and mindfulness to local, national, and international K-12 education. More intimately, her coaching has seen me through the highs and lows of marriage, the sweet joys and heartaches of parenting one athlete and one artist, and all of the ordinary and extraordinary experiences that have led to the creation and development of the Still Quiet Place offerings, including this book. Thankfully, today, as always, her astonishing combination of keen intuition, fierce clarity, and loving compassion continues to support me in joyfully expressing my deepest passions and creative gifts. This book would not exist without her devoted, unwavering guidance. It is an absolute privilege to share the practices of mindfulness with you and to pay Coach G's truly awesome coaching forward, to inspire you to find flow in sports and in life. Part 1. The Fundamentals. Mindfulness. Hello and congratulations. By choosing this book, you are demonstrating that you are an athlete who is committed to training not only your body, but also your mind and spirit. Over time, this commitment will allow you to experience flow in sports and in life. As your first mindfulness exercise, simply notice the thoughts and feelings that appear as you hear the sentence again. By choosing this book, you are demonstrating that you are an athlete who is committed to training not only your body, but also your mind and spirit. Maybe you feel a sense of excitement, like, yes, I'm stoked. I've been looking for something to help me get to the next level. Maybe you feel doubt and resistance, like, there's no way that just listening to a book can help me with my paralyzing pre-competition anxiety. Take a moment and just be really honest with yourself about what you're thinking and feeling. Excellent. You've just done your first mindfulness practice. Chapter 1. Welcome. Neither mastery nor satisfaction can be found in the playing of any game without giving some attention to the relatively neglected skills of the inner game. This is the game that takes place in the mind of the player, and it is played against such obstacles as lapses in concentration, nervousness, self-doubt, and self-condemnation. In short, it is played to overcome all habits of mind which inhibit excellence in performance. Tim Gallwey. This chapter provides straightforward, usable definitions and relatable examples of mindfulness and flow. It includes a summary of the research demonstrating the benefits of mindfulness, including how practicing mindfulness can increase the likelihood that you will experience flow. The chapter closes with suggestions for how you can best use this book to achieve peak performance and find flow in sports and in life. Mindfulness. About now you may be wondering what mindfulness is, so let's begin with the definition. Mindfulness is paying attention here and now, with kindness and curiosity, so that we can choose our behavior. Let's break this definition down. Paying attention here and now means doing our best to not dwell on the past or worry or fantasize about the future, and simply paying attention to what's actually happening in this moment. And we pay attention with kindness and curiosity. Otherwise, we are often incredibly hard on ourselves. We tend to see only where we've made a mistake or screwed up. Rather than judging and critiquing ourselves, with mindfulness we practice bringing an attitude of kindness and curiosity to ourselves and our experience. Finally, when we bring our kind and curious attention to our thoughts and feelings, to the sensations in our bodies, and to the people and circumstances in our lives, then we have all the information we need so that we can choose our behavior. That is, respond in the moment to events during training, competition, and daily life. As you begin, it may encourage you to know that more and more elite and professional athletes and teams are enthusiastically using mindfulness because they have discovered that it enhances their performance and creates the conditions for finding flow. Here's a short list of some of the athletes and teams that have used or are using mindfulness to enhance performance. The Los Angeles Lakers and the Chicago Bulls, the two most successful teams ever in the history of professional basketball, with multiple NBA championships between them. The New York Knicks, the Boston Red Sox, Shawn Green, multi-record-setting baseball player, Tim Lincecum, World Series pitcher for the San Francisco Giants, Derek Jeter, shortstop for the New York Yankees, the 2016 World Series winning Chicago Cubs, Kerry Walsh Jennings and Misty May Traynor, Olympic beach volleyball gold medalists, Novak Djokovic, winner of 12 tennis Grand Slam titles, Sam Mikulak, U.S. Olympic gymnast, the Baltimore Ravens, the Seattle Seahawks, 2015 NFL champions and 2016 runner-up, the U.S. national BMX team, including 2016 Olympic gold medalist Connor Fields, and the Golden State Warriors, 2015 and 2017 NBA champions. In fact, the Warriors' declared core values are joy, mindfulness, compassion, and competition. So again, pause here and notice what you're thinking and feeling. Maybe you're thinking, cool, I'll give it a try. Or maybe you're thinking, this is weird. I doubt this will help me. Whatever you're thinking or feeling is absolutely fine. There is nothing you need to change or fix. And I encourage you to keep listening, to actually do the practices in this book, and then choose for yourself what is helpful. Finding flow. As an athlete, you've felt it. That moment when time slows down and the world disappears, and even the sense of you as a separate self falls away, and there's just movement, rhythm, energy, joy. That indescribable feeling is flow. Because the experience of flow is beyond the realm of thinking, it can never be fully expressed in words. The following quotes from Shawn Green, one of the all-time most accomplished players in Major League Baseball, and Harrison Barnes, from his time with the Golden State Warriors, come close to capturing the essence of flow. The truth is that while I was in the zone, I moved beyond the whole competition aspect of hitting. Absorbed in the act, it no longer mattered to me what team I was playing against or who was on the mound. There was only this. The ball came at me in slow motion, and I hit it. As the pitcher released the ball, there was no me, no him. no bat, and no ball. All nouns were gone, leaving only one verb, to hit. I was in that flow state. You're out there moving, but you're not exerting any energy. You're shooting the ball, but you're not thinking if you're going to miss or you're going to make it. You're just playing. The game is there. You're just letting it come to you naturally. In his book, Flow, The Psychology of Optimal Experience, pioneering flow researcher Mihai Csikszentmihalyi defines 9 qualities of flow. The qualities are listed next, along with a personal example of gradually progressing from being a clumsy beginner to experiencing intermediate snowboarding flow. As you listen, you may want to reflect on your own cycles of developing flow. Remember the first time you rode a bike without training wheels or a supportive hand, swam the width of a pool, skated rather than wobbled around a rink, or actually threw or caught a football? Qualities of flow. 1. Skill challenge balance. A situation in which you feel that you are being challenged and that you have the skills to meet the challenges. Anxiety, when you feel you do not have the skills to meet the challenge, can be considered the opposite of flow. When I was first learning to snowboard, I didn't have any skill or flow. Simply standing was challenging, as was maneuvering the board, getting on and off the lift, turning from heel side to toe side, and avoiding all the fixed and moving obstacles. My experience was one of awkwardness and moderate anxiety. Definitely not flow. 2. Merging of action and awareness. A feeling of being at one with the activity, a sense of peace or harmony while performing an activity. At first, I was in my head, thinking about the instructions and trying to get my body to perform the movements described by my instructor. There was no sense of peace or harmony. 3. Clarity of purpose, a sense of feeling connected to the activity and to being able to respond skillfully in the moment. I didn't feel connected or in control of my board. I was not able to respond skillfully when I lost my balance or someone zoomed by. 4. Unambiguous, clear feedback. The ability to effortlessly receive and process and respond to relevant information. Early on, I didn't even know what the relevant information was. I knew I preferred to be upright, but I didn't have a feel for how to interpret the feedback from the board, or how to move my body and the board in response to that feedback, to changes in terrain, to people, and to obstacles. 5. Concentration. Being completely focused on the activity in the present moment. Fortunately, thanks to a long-time mindfulness practice, I was able to concentrate on learning to snowboard. 6. Sense of control and confidence. An absence of fear of failure. I definitely did not have a sense of control and confidence. Because I was learning for fun, I didn't really have a fear of failure, though I was occasionally frustrated. 7. Loss of self-consciousness. Not worrying about I, me, and my, or what others may be thinking about you and your performance. Even as a beginner, my mindfulness allowed me to be aware that I was self-conscious, that I wanted my instructor and classmates to think I was a good student, athletic, and a quick learner. 8. Time transformation. When time slows, stops, or speeds up because you are fully engaged. Initially, time was just time. There was no sense of being out of time or of being fully absorbed in the activity. 9. Autotelic experience. This is just a fancy way of saying that the experience is rewarding in and of itself, and not because you will win or get a spot on the roster. In short, this is truly feeling the love of the game. Over time, I developed more skill and was able to meet increasing challenges. Even now, on intermediate runs, I don't have to think about flexing my feet, directing my knees, shifting my weight, or keeping my shoulders in line with the board. I have a sense of peace and harmony. I am able to respond skillfully to changes in terrain and people and obstacles on the mountain. My body knows how to receive and respond to the feel of the board and the snow. While I concentrate, I can narrow and expand my field of awareness as needed. On intermediate terrain, I have a sense of control and confidence. I am less worried about how I am doing and what others think. I have moments where I am just riding out of time and space, and just moving and feeling the joy of flow.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?